Hi, I'm Andrea Klim, and you are watching Turn to the Stars. And today is November 2nd, 2015. And the topic of Turn to the Stars today is going to be the Scorpio new moon that is occurring on 11/11/15 at 12:46 p.m. here, EST, Eastern Standard Time. And also the Gemini full moon, which is going to be on November 25th of 2015 at exactly 4:43 p.m. So most likely the night of the 24th, we're going to see a really full moon that is catapulting us into actually the waning moon by the night of the 25th. So I want to go into depth on these two topics because next week I'm going to have a special guest on Turn to the Stars. And, this new moon that we're coming on 11/11/15, which is just ahead of us, is really giving us this idea that to every ending there is also the beginning. It is supporting that idea. The natural cycle of life is brought to light during this new moon in Scorpio. Something dies and something struggles to be born. The new moon that's occurring on interesting 11/11/15 because 11 is typically a portal or an opening or a passageway. You see two numbers together and they kind of make that what looks like a roadway or a pathway. And it brings to our attention, will we continue to cling to the old and turn and look forward to practice new and healthier methods of sustaining life? And I have a chart of this new moon that I want to put on the screen, and you can see it highlighted at the top of the screen in purple, and you can see the symbols for the sun and the moon, and also Mercury is in that stellium of Scorpio energy at the top of the chart, like right about 12 noon. And it's really what this chart is showing us, sort of alchemy is taking place. And alchemy, as for anyone who doesn't know, is the changing of the form of something to something else. Scorpio, the symbol is originally depicted by a snake or serpent, which is a symbol long associated with healing. The doctor who prescribes methods for healing which bring about transformation and good health. And I have actually a picture of the first picture after this chart. There it is. That we see that picture on a lot of doctors in doctors' offices, on pharmacies. They display this symbol on their doors and on their walls. And symbolically, you see the snake. And the snake, typically the symbol for Scorpio looks like an M. And it has an extra loop with a, what looks like an arrow or the stinger of a scorpion. And it's interesting because I was symbolically studying this information about Scorpio before the show, and I realized that in ancient Crete, the great goddess was depicted with snakes wrapped around her staff. And you can see that in this next picture, which is a picture of the Iron Age of Europe with, there it is, with ancient Greece and Rome, the classical Athena pictures of her. And you can see her staff with a snake wrapped around it in both of these statues. And so it is possible that Athena being the goddess of strategy, that her power at the base of her staff was very important toward her wisdom and her strategy and being able to change the way things were played out. So I want to come back here for a second. I want to talk about Kundalini energy, which is very much associated with Scorpio energy. And Kundalini is the primal energy of enlightenment, drawn from the root chakra or the root and origin of our power center, and is symbolized by a serpent. And you can see that in this next picture that I have to put on the screen. It's actually a human form, and you can see the root chakra, or the base of the spine, is where the Kundalini energy comes from, or the power center. And it's interesting because there's been so much talk about a type of yoga called Tantra yoga, which with some research I have discovered that is primarily based upon harnessing the spiritual power that can be drawn upon from the root chakra, and that truly is the power center of the being. So the scorpion that you see, the symbol for Scorpio, represents this Scorpio constellation influence and theme for this month ahead. Like the symbology in the series of the movies of Harry Potter, the phoenix burns to ashes, is reborn from the ashes, symbolizing egoic desires being burned away, only for new life to grow. And so all of the symbols I've just mentioned above point to the spiritual task of this new moon in Scorpio, and the theme of this month is to learn to let go and realize that there is truly no real death, only a transformation that is taking place and changing things from one form to another. Truly a month of alchemy. And anybody out there who has Scorpio energy, or Taurus energy, or Leo energy, or Aquarius energy, is going to feel the force and the power of transition that comes along with this new theme. And in past shows, you've heard me talk about how all the changes we've been experiencing in 2015 have been influencing us. And as we see in the Scorpio new moon chart, if we could put that chart up again, the Scorpio new moon, that's the first one. We can see in that chart that right beside that new moon at the top of the chart, as I mentioned before, is Mercury. And Mercury is in that constellation of Scorpio as well, which tells us that our thinking is one of the primary areas in need of transformation. The Mercury is the planet that rules over our thinking, our thought processes, the way we analyze things. And truly, there's a lot of emotion attached to our transitional or the transitions that are happening in our ways of thinking. And the energy symbolized by the planet Mercury indicates that our mental energy, our ability to perceive and share information, as well as our ability to realize old connections between old patterns and our current manner of thinking, is going to go through a transformation or a transition. And it's interesting because I'm going to give you a little bit of history here on Mercury. Mercury, or Hermes, was an Olympian god in Greek religion and mythology, the son of Zeus and the Pleiad Maia, M-A-I-A. And he is the second youngest of the Olympian gods. Hermes is the god of transitions and boundaries. He's quick, he's cunning, and moves freely between the worlds of the mortal and the divine, and is an emissary, a messenger of the gods, intercessor between mortals and the divine, and conductor of souls into the afterlife. Interesting that it's right there beside Scorpio, because Scorpio is truly one of the symbols or the signs that represents death, transition. It brings to light the sexual desires of the human and all beings. And Mercury is the protector and the patron of herdsmen, thieves, oratory and wit, literature, poetry, athletics and sports, the planning and the design of the game, invention and trade, roads, boundaries, and travelers. In some myths, Mercury is the trickster and outwits other gods for his own satisfaction or for the sake of humankind. I remember a story in one of my daughter's books on astrology about Hermes. When he was first born, a newborn, he outsmarted his mother and his parents, and he tricked them. His attributes and symbols include the Herma, the rooster, the tortoise, purse or the pouch, the wing. You see that picture of Hermes with winged sandals. He's flying, and a winged cap. His main symbol is the Greek caracoin, or Latin caduceus, which consisted of 2 snakes wrapped around a winged staff. In the Roman adaptation of the Greek pantheon, the Roman god Mercury, who, though inherited from the Etruscans, developed many similar characteristics, such as being the patron of commerce. So, on this new moon, on November 11th, 11/11/15, and as it approaches, Mercury, right beside this new moon, the sun, the moon come together, and Mercury is right there in that constellation of Scorpio, encourages us to scrutinize what goes through our mind and what comes across our lips. What is true? What's really true? What needs to be said? What do we need to open our minds to hear? And it's interesting, if I could put that chart up one more time of that new moon in Scorpio, I want to point out something. Do you see the blue lines that kind of slant down through the middle of the chart down to what looks like a key, which is probably right around 7, 8 o'clock if you were to look at a clock on the wall? There's a symbol that we call Chiron, the wounded healer, which is... and those blue lines represent relief and doors opening to receive healing and an unconditional formation through our heart via the words that carry the knowledge we each need in order to change and transition. We are aware of important insights surfacing as Venus squares Pluto and opposes Uranus. And that chart I'm all set with, and because I actually have a chart I'm going to put on the screen that I want to point out an important date around November 20th. And that the next chart, yes, that is the chart right there. And I have all the circles that you see in green are markers of a cardinal T-square, which is showing up in our solar system between the planets Venus, Pluto, Uranus, and Uranus is opposing Venus. So we become aware of an important insight surfacing. There's a profound change of direction as this configuration shows up on November 20th through the 23rd. And the basic symbology of this new moon at 19 degrees in the constellation of Scorpio puts especially great emphasis on how important it is for us to be conscious of sharing uplifting information. So I'm all set with that chart. I just wanted to point out that date and that we should be cognizant and aware of the 20th through the 23rd, and especially in relationships, in financial matters, in matters that have to do with awakening to an awareness of each other and the surface changes that are actually occurring. And there's difficulties that are involved in this cardinal T-square. It's actually bringing some chaos. However, it is also bringing growth. And this new moon that we're just about to embark on 11/11/15 is really sharing up. It's very important. It reminds us that it's very important to share uplifting information rather than repeat thoughts or thought forms that feed on denial. I refuse to accept that is something that is part of me. Fear, anger, or disempowerment. All of those things, we need to be aware of those type of things occurring, or us maybe feeding things of that sort. And I also want to mention that as 2015 is slowly winding forward to a close, we absolutely know that we are somehow profoundly different that is dimensionally, things have changed. You said out loud the things you know in your heart. You're not the same person you were in January of this year. And you're especially not the person you were in January of 2012, when this Pluto-Uranus 7 squares began, and has really made a huge difference in everybody's life on Earth. You know this, you feel it, and it's both exhilarating and overwhelming. And you know, right now we are actually getting a glimpse of the future. Because of these changes in your energetic vibration, you may feel confused, even out of sorts. I know I have. Everybody I talk to is in some way, in some area of their life, going through these experiences. You may be feeling spaced out, disoriented, or somehow odd in your physical body. Sometimes feel like you're over here and your body's here. Perhaps you're getting spiritual downloads of a quality and vibration that you've never experienced before. Having visions of things that you've never seen before. It's exciting, it's exhilarating, but to some people who've never been aware of this, it's scary. So at Turn to the Stars and through the different networks that are associated with us, we are doing the best we can for ourselves and others that come into our path to help raise their awareness to the quality of holistic healing on all levels, spirit, soul, mind, and body. And we do have a psychic and holistic fair, which is our 30th one at the Yard Restaurant here in Manchester, New Hampshire, coming up on November 21st. Lots of very insightful readers going to be there. I'm going to be doing astrology readings, and there's going to be mediumship, tarot. There's going to be holistic healing therapies that are going to be offered. Kathy Tagney, who's one of the sponsors of the show, is going to be doing her healing modality, and there is going to be holistic vendors. It's very exciting, and we're planning on having a medicine wheel, a Native American medicine wheel. So we hope you write that date on your calendar, Saturday, November 21st, 10 to 4. And there, you're going to find some help through this transitional month. And maybe at times you feel so alive that you think, you're so excited with all of these changes, and also with the help of others, that you feel like, you're just going to blow up with excitement. So we are truly at a turning point, and it's not a typical 3D turning point, which involves an unseeable crossroads. Truly, this is a dimensional turning point. It involves reaching a plateau at the top of a staircase. It's interesting, when I think of reaching the top of a staircase, I go, oh, I've made it. So a multi-level continual spiral staircase that you've been climbing since 2012, since 2001, since 1992, going back to 87, 1967 and beyond. If you think of those years and the experiences that you had, they were all major markers cosmically and in your life of experience. So you're stepping up to new platforms, a new world. That's exciting. It's a lot to take in, and you could easily feel very overwhelmed by all of this change. So how can you deal with this huge transition? Well, here's some things that you might need. Need to get your bearings here on this new ground, meaning that plant your feet on this ground. Do things that ground you. Walking, exercise, taking part in community events, getting out with friends. Make sure that you have the balance in your body between your work life, your home life, your friends. And there are things that you can do holistically that help you, but there's also other methods that are sometimes needed. You need to find peace within yourself about all that has transpired, and that will take some time. You need to acknowledge how brave you are for being on this path and be grateful. Every time you feel like you're getting sucked into that black hole, stop and take time to actually take account of what you have and how lucky you are that you have a home to live in, a bed to sleep in, food on your table. You need some certainty about what's coming down the pike. So these times of reflection are important. You need a map, a timetable, a calendar, a compass to find your way. Astrology is the best compass. One of my clients, Roan Kendall, who's now in California, used to always say that to me. You're my compass. And astrology is truly my compass. It helps me to understand what's going on around me and times that I should go slow and really just take time to really clear the fog. So you need knowledge, you need information and perspective so that you can navigate in this changing world. So, which leads me to talk about the new moon again on 11/11, which ushers in a turning point. It puts our past year of 2015 under a microscope, and it brings 2016 into focus. It shows a profound, it's interesting is what I want to talk about next is the full moon that's coming up on the 25th of November. And I actually couldn't get that chart to print out or upload to my stick today, so I'm just going to give you the language that is associated with that chart, because that chart shows the full moon at 3 degrees of Gemini. It shows a mutable T-square, and that it shows a profound change of direction is brought to light by the fullness of the information. That is what Gemini is about. Information, all those things I was talking about earlier associated with Hermes, with Mercury. This full moon is going to bring a lot of information to light. And it is also going to, so the week approaching the 25th is going to be quite intense emotionally with lots of information that may seem very overwhelming. And I do have that full moon chart. Thank you, John. I forgot I had got it to upload. I just couldn't get it to print. So you can see that full moon over on the left-hand side of the chart, and that is saying that there's things that are buried that are going to surface, information that's going to surface. And the most important symbology of that full moon in Gemini is that it will bring understanding of our need to reconnect with that which gives us meaning and spiritual food. And what you see the full moon that's highlighted over in blue. If you were to take your finger and to trace it up to the top of the chart with that red magenta color line that has a square on it, you would find yourself at the planet Neptune, which is a planet of dreams, of visions, of understanding, which is also, it's very interesting because Neptune is also about escapism. And this is also, on an emotional level, there's things that we're going to see that we may want to run and hide from, but it's very important that we keep our feet on the ground. And if I could put that chart up one more time, John, I just want to point out one more thing. Over to the right-hand side, we see 3 red lines that are coming down to what looks like about 3 or 4 o'clock if we were to look at a clock on the wall. And over there, we see the sun, we see Mercury, and we also see Mars. And that is a strong indication that there's going to be a lot of truth that surfaces, and there's going to be a lot of emphasis on our belief systems and understanding these things that we'd rather not look at. And what I'd like you to do is close your eyes for a minute and imagine that there's a small child that is right beside you, and that's your child, or maybe it's your puppy or your dog, and they're just learning to walk, and his parents are encouraging him and assisting him with guidance and nurturance. And this is what we need to be aware of, and really embrace and support this process for the people in our lives and them for us. It goes both ways, because this new moon parallels a period in our history that was about 1383 AD, when feudalism, crusades, inquisition, magic, monasticism, and cathedrals were important events at hand. And I have an image of that 1383. This is something I found in my research, and there was a lot of chaos. There was war. You see a picture of war here, of the Crusades. And so this full moon shines brightly on the connection between our beliefs, our dreams, and our lives. Do we want war or do we want peace? So we're going to have to really slow down in order to create that sense of peace and understanding. And it's interesting because there is a great American poet and philosopher that said, and his name was Henry David Thoreau, "It is not what you think, what you look at that matters. It's what you see." And as you've heard me talk about on earlier shows, look past the face and see what lies beneath the surface. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are just learning how to do that, because what things look like on the surface typically are not what they are inside. So I want to say thank you, everyone, for watching Turn to the Stars. And remember, turn to the stars and you will find your answers there. It's the natural world that surrounds us. And I want to just wish you well. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.